I had a video background. I hesitated to get into food videos because I couldn't afford the right equipment. I didn't want to do it if the quality wasn't going to be there. But eventually I just dove in, and I feel like that was the best thing anyone could do, is just start and do it, and it won't be perfect, but you'll learn as you go and always get better.
That was Lindsay Moe, and this is episode number 198 of the Chopped Podcast. Hey there, how are you doing today? I am so glad you've joined me. I'm Marley McMillan. I'm with the blog Namely Marley, and I am your host of the Chop Podcast, where we're talking about a lot of things, including entrepreneurism, productivity, mindset, social media, and even some technical things like SEO. All of this as it relates to a passion for food blogging and influencing. So before we get started on today's episode, I just want to check in with you and see how you're doing. Are you doing okay? I know there's so much going on these days. It's actually very overwhelming. I don't know about you, but all of this has my sensory system on high alert. I don't know. Do you feel the same? The thing is, being on high alert doesn't make creativity an easy thing, and we need to be able to tap into our creativity for the work that we do. So I've decided to make a couple of changes in my workflow as a result. Just kind of acknowledging this is how things are right now. And, maybe I'll change them again down the road, but here's where we are right now. First, I'm greatly reducing the amount of editing I'm doing to each podcast episode. So the editing process is a real time suck. And I'll be honest, I find it to be a complete joy killer. That's how much I hate it. And I've talked to a few people, and as a result, I've just decided to minimize the amount of editing I do a lot. To be honest, I really like the idea of my interviews being like I'm in a coffee shop and I'm having this conversation with this other person, and we're talking about food blogging, and you're right there with us. That's just my happy spot. That's where I like to be. But that means you're listening to a real conversation, and some of that may be you listening to me stutter or my lisp or whatever. I spent a lot of years in speech therapy, and I have a tendency probably to be a little sensitive about that as a result, to try to get over my stutter and try to, fix that lisp and all those things. And so I think I have a tendency to really because I'm so sensitive to it, that I probably over edit more than I need to. And it's understandable. I want to put my best foot forward for you all, but at some point it's just too much. It's overwhelming, and it slows everything down. And I've decided to take Brene Brown's advice and just be real with y'all, to be vulnerable. And hopefully I won't have what is referred to as a vulnerability hangover. I think she calls them that. I think you get what I'm talking about there. I hope you find it actually to be a refreshing change of pace. We'll still have the best high quality audio that we can. It's just the conversation is just going to have a little more realness to it. Second, I did get a new editing tool called Descript. It actually lets me do the minor edits to the audio file from a text transcript. So that feels a little bit easier for me. And it produces a transcript that we're now able to add to the show notes page too. I look at that as a win-win. So this has made things a lot easier, and so far it seems to be working. I'm bringing this up with the idea that maybe you can also find some creative solutions to the joy killers in your work. It may be hiring someone to help or finding ways to simplify the work that you do. Either way, I think it's important to stay committed to finding the joy in your work. Otherwise, it's easy to procrastinate it and not want to touch it, and that's not a good thing either. So speaking of joy, let's talk about today's guest, Lindsay Moe. She's with the site The Live-In Kitchen, and we are talking about a lot of things today, including Lindsay's passion for food video and her tips for how to make that process enjoyable for you as well. So my question is, do you find video enjoyable? I think a lot of us are in this boat of it's really hard and complicated, and but we also know it's a big deal, right? Video in food blogging is really important. And so I want you to know that I have actually several upcoming podcast episodes that we're going into this very topic. So if you find video to be your joy killer, stay tuned, because Lindsay has some great advice today. And then there's actually a couple more episodes coming up on this topic too. I also love that Lindsay has just found a great niche and that she's working with on her blog, and she's grown it over the years. And we also talk about roadblocks that occur along our path to success. Like, I think it's easy for us to want to view success as that one long straight line going up. And in reality, reality, it's a little bit different than that. There's a lot of jumps and starts along the way. And Lindsay talks about that. If you're trying to grow your audience and then suddenly you're in quarantine and all of a sudden your kids are around all the time, and it's great, of course, but at the same time, it creates a challenge for how do you get work done? Or maybe Google changes its algorithm or whatever the roadblock is that comes for you. I think you're going to find value in today's topic because Lindsay's talking about those roadblocks and how you move past them. I mean, roadblocks happen. That should be a t-shirt, don't you think? Lindsay's advice is not to let them get you down. In fact, Lindsay talks about how she took a break from her blog and how that helped her in the long run. So I love this creative conversation. It's really like creative problem solving on some of the issues that you face as a food blogger. It's yet another inspiring conversation to help you create and stay on your path to success. So let's get straight to it. Here's today's featured discussion with Lindsay Moe. Hey everyone, I'm happy to have on the show today Lindsay Moe. She's with the site The Live-In Kitchen. Hi Lindsay, and welcome to the Chop Podcast.
Hi, Marley. Thanks for having me.
I am so glad to have you on the show today. First of all, I mean, I can't believe I haven't had you on the show before because we've met in person a couple of times now. You came to the Chopped conference and we met at a conference in Virginia, I think probably the year before that. And so I feel like we've known each other for a while now, and yet this is the first time you've been on the show, so I'm excited.
Yeah, me too. It's great to talk to you again.
Yes. Do you continue to go to food blogging conferences?
Yeah, I've been to the Mediavine conference and was supposed to go to EFC for the first time this year, but of course that got pushed back, and we'll see if that happens or not. But I like to
Yes.
go once a year, so it's nice to connect with people and get away when you're stuck at home all the time, working from home. Get
Yes.
out, be with grown-ups.
Yeah, exactly. And get kind of fresh inspiration and things like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. So I just love this question just to, I realize I haven't had had this conversation with you yet, which is what is it that caused you to start your blog?
I started in 2011. I had a 2-year-old and a 6-month-old, and I had been a stay-at-home mom for about a year and a half. And before I became a mom, I had just started teaching myself how to cook, and people were kind of asking me for recipes that I was trying and things. And I had been reading a few food blogs to kind of teach myself and get into it. And I was like, well, I could do this. This could be fun. I needed like a creative outlet, something to do and use my brain. And so I just dove in.
That's great. I love it. And how did you come up with the name The Live-In Kitchen?
I felt like I was living in the kitchen all the time, trying to feed my family.
Yeah.
And it just felt like a good fit. If I had to start now, I'd probably choose a different name just because it has a hyphen. People get confused on how to pronounce it, but it's been there so long now.
Oh
Probably stick
yeah.
with it.
Yeah, that's right. At some point you're just like, I've thought about that with my blog name because it has nothing to do with food. And yet there are some other sites that don't have food or kitchen or things like that in their name, and they do fine too. But it's like, yeah, it's funny how we can go back to those times when we started it, and then how it's kind of evolved. And oh well, if we had a magic ball, we would know, right?
Yeah.
Do you think back to those days when you first started, like, gosh, like how much or how little we knew about what we were doing at the time, and now where we are is so different?
It is so different. I feel like people who start now have such a leg up because there's so much information out there. People are so willing to be open and help, but we all have to grow and change with the times. Even those people will have to
Yes.
change eventually. So everything's always changing.
That's so true. There was this kind of attitude of helping back then, but it wasn't anything like it is today.
And I started feeling like I knew what I was doing, and I totally didn't. Like, I was like, these photos are great, but they're not.
Oh, I had no clue. In fact, as I'm going through and updating old content, I just catch myself laughing at myself so much, like what I thought what was I thinking? And yeah, anyway, cracks me up.
Yeah, I've been updating old content a lot too. I was trying not to post more than one new recipe a month this year. And of course, now everything's different, but
Yes.
still hoping to update or get rid of a lot of things.
Yeah, let's talk about that some more in a minute. I think that how people are dealing with this current quarantine situation is it's just it's very interesting times that we live in. So I definitely want to talk with you about that. But first, I want to ask you. So you started cooking like a year and a half before. So had you ever thought you might be interested in cooking before that, or was it just kind of a new concept for you?
No, I didn't really grow up in like a food culture. Like we were a meat and potatoes family, pretty much ate the same thing every week. And once I got married, it was falling on me to cook dinner. And I was like, I don't know what to cook. I don't know how to cook anything. I'm not enjoying this. I don't like the food. So I figured if I'm going to have to do this for the rest of my life, I better figure it out. And I guess I did.
Yeah. I also like how on your about page you talk about how you're vegetarian but your family is not, and you figure in your audience there are probably a lot of people who are like that as well. And so I think that's great to provide, smaller recipes for people who like maybe they want to create a vegetarian dish that goes along with the other things that they're cooking.
Yeah, it's a really interesting niche. I wish it was a little bigger, maybe bigger of an
Yeah.
audience, but it's nice to connect with people who are maybe trying out meatless meals for the first time, or, my site really caters to people who have to cook for a wide range of dietary needs and they don't know what to do. And so I try to offer a lot of customization options for them.
I love that. I think, it's a problem that's out there, and finding a way to help solve that is pretty awesome.
It's a really kind community too, because I've found that, not all vegetarians and vegans can be militaristic about it, but some can get a little passionate. And so this way, just everybody's welcome and we try new things and it's fun.
You and me are on the same page on that because I call myself a secular vegan because I'm just not into the all the rules and religion of it. I'm more into, hey, let's all be on this together. Whatever way we can be in this together, let's do this.
That's great.
Yeah. Okay, so I am just curious about how it comes to food photography because I feel like some people walk into, I guess this is a twofold question. Is one, did you start your blog thinking that this could be a business for you? And when you got to that point when you realized the photography really mattered, did you already know what you were going to do with that, or did you have to kind of beef up your photography skills?
I did not start my blog thinking it would be a business. I feel like when I started, shortly after that, maybe a few people were just starting to make a full time income from it. And that wasn't really on my radar. It was just a hobby and a passion. But I came into it thinking I knew a lot about photography. I had taken a lot of photography courses in college. But I feel like food photography and videography is just a totally different thing. Like
Mhm.
it takes totally different skills. And I spent some time reading. I think I read Tasty Food Photography by Lindsay Ostrom. And there was another print book that I read that I can't remember the name of, but it's the one that everybody reads.
Yeah, I think I've got it in my bookshelf, but I can't see it right now.
Yeah.
Yes. I agree with you. Food photography is something I think looks so easy, and yet it is so complicated and hard.
Yeah. And I like to think I'm doing better now, but I would also like to think that I can still improve and will get better all the time.
Yes, I mean, I find that both encouraging and discouraging. I don't know how you feel about that, but it's
Yeah.
like I'm encouraged because I'm so much better than, the photography on our site is so much better than it used to be. And I'm discouraged to know that a year from now, I might look back at what I'm doing and think, oh, why didn't I do this?
Yeah. Some of the recipes I reshot a couple years ago, and now I look back on them and it's like, do I do it again?
Yeah.
That doesn't seem okay.
It's one thing to redo it, but it's another thing to redo it.
Yeah.
Yes. I have some recipes like that too. And sometimes it's just things that are so obvious. Like, how did I miss that fleck of mold or whatever that or dark spot that was on the cutting board that cookie was sitting on or whatever? It's like, I don't know how maybe there was a part of me that was a little bit like, oh, I just want to get this done. And so I'm trying to, in my current day, I'm trying to be a little bit more. First of all, if I play some music or make the environment feel fun, then it kind of gets me out of that get her done mindset and just push through and get it done, you know?
Yeah, there are a few photos that I've gone back and just re-edited instead of reshooting to better match the style that I'm going for now. So it's a little bit easier way to do it.
That's really good. Oh, that's a very good point. So you can kind of crop in on an old photo or brighten it up or things like that, and it matches more what you're going for.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a great idea. I've done that too when it comes to sharing things on Pinterest. Even if I have an old post that I don't have time to update the photos on it right now, I'll go ahead and, crop in and brighten up and add it as a collage and put it back on Pinterest that way.
Yeah, Pinterest is tricky because I don't know if people want good photos or bad photos. I feel like they
Right.
relate better to the bad photos, and
Yes.
maybe they'll be more likely to click on it and make it. But I spent a season trying to really curate my Pinterest feed, what I was pinning, and only doing like top notch photography, no text, and it didn't work well.
Ah.
People wanted a little more real, I think.
Oh, I see what you're saying. So for you, you found that having your photos look a little more real for Pinterest does better.
Yeah.
Interesting. I just published an interview with Nicole Barker. She has a VA service where she helps people with their Pinterest, and she said these words, which I thought was so powerful, and that is every Pinterest account is different. So I actually like the statement she said to keep your eyes on your own Pinterest account
Yeah.
because we can look at other people's and say, "Oh, she's doing all these pretty photos, or she's doing this," and then we think that's the way to do it. But in reality, you have to be attuned to your own audience.
And it's so frustrating when you want your audience to
I know.
be the pretty photo audience and they're
Yes.
like, "No, we want the ugly cold cheese photo."
Whatever works, right?
Yeah.
Yes. Okay, so what did you do before you were a food blogger?
I worked for a home shopping network, not the
Oh,
home shopping network, but I edited videos for their website. I would take, their live show and cut individual sales down into about a minute and put it on their product page. So it was a lot like recipe videos. It's strange now looking back, seeing how similar it was. And it was interesting because that was during the time that I was learning how to cook, kind of teaching myself from food blogs and cookbooks. And they had kind of a celebrity chef who would sell the kitchen things on the channel. And he hosted a cooking demo for some of the employees one year. And I went to that and came away just really feeling like I can do this, I can cook. And I would make those recipes all the time. And I'd be like, look at me, I can do it.
yes. So, and is that one of the things that kind of inspired you to, I don't know, how do I say this, like to improve your cooking skills?
Yeah, it definitely gave me some confidence. And it's interesting how that job kind of translated into food blogging. Food
Yes.
blogging wasn't a job then, but for it to be so closely related and help, spur me into that it was good.
I do think that there are things that we do in our careers that help us in ways that we have no idea that's going to be part of our future. And so it's kind of cool to look back on that and see how it's helped you today.
Yeah, I feel like it held me back a little bit too because
Mm,
I had a video background. I hesitated to get into food videos because I couldn't afford the right equipment. I didn't want to do it if the quality wasn't going to be there.
yes.
But eventually I just dove in and I feel like that was the best thing anyone could do is just start and do it and it won't be perfect, but you'll learn as you go and always get better.
Oh my God, that's such great advice. I don't remember what I was watching recently that talked about that. Oh, I listened to a podcast that was actually talking about performance, and they had this expert on performance actually say that very thing, that we're so consumed with perfection that we don't realize that nothing is perfect. And so you really should just strive for excellence, the most excellence that you can have in that moment. And I think that's good advice.
Yeah.
That's great. So, and also the boom of video editing technology seems like it's gotten so much better so that the things that you have at home may be, I mean, I'm sure it's not as good as what you had at the company, but it's getting there.
Yeah, video editing hasn't changed too much, I don't feel like, in the years. It was more getting a camera that could take good quality and audio, things like that.
Yeah, exactly. And so do you do a lot of video on your blog?
Yeah, for a long time, I was doing a video with every recipe, and then I started to feel like that was maybe a little bit overkill. And so now I'm being a little more selective with which recipes I choose to do a video for. I find that videos are most useful for me on Facebook and Pinterest, and I've kind of got it figured out which type of recipes my audience want to see there. So that helps me make my decisions.
What about with Instagram? You don't use video there?
I have a few times and they just fall super flat. I wonder if I was more consistent about it, if it would catch on, but I haven't found a way to schedule videos to Instagram yet. I do a lot of scheduling there, so I don't spend a lot of time on the platform and I don't want to have to go in so often to upload them.
Yes, it is trickier to upload videos to Instagram, I believe. I started doing some just kind of slow motion videos of recipes I was creating, and I got a lot of good interaction from that. So maybe that's a little bit like what you were saying. It's like this it's not professional level at all. It's just with me using my phone and super slow mo, and I got some really good interaction. I'm going to do more of that. I think that's maybe what you were saying about Pinterest is how I feel about Instagram on video. They seem to like more of the homegrown version. I don't know.
Yeah, I've seen those slow motion videos and they are enticing. Everybody wants to watch, like batter being stirred.
I know. Talk about food porn. I mean, that's really what that is. Like, I need some sultry music in the background.
Yeah. But that's a good point about how each platform kind of has its own
Yes.
type of video that does better. And I think that's the best thing people can do with video is if you're shooting one, try to figure out how to make it work for multiple platforms, make the most of your investment.
Oh, that is so smart. So you can see one that, like, maybe Facebook versus YouTube would be a little bit longer and Facebook would be a little bit shorter. I mean, those are kind of some examples.
Yeah, I actually, when I'm editing my videos, I create one specifically for Instagram every time, just in case the
Mhm.
scheduler ever gets there. So I'm ready to go.
That's good. I heard somebody else say that why don't just shoot overhead at the same time that you're shooting face on or whatever, so that way you have both videos if you want to do the hands and pans and the problem is I think for a lot of people they don't want to get behind the camera and actually and talk, or in front of the
Yeah.
camera, I should say.
Yeah. I've really wanted to get into hosting videos, but it's the same thing. I'm just giving myself the same problem. I don't feel like I have the right space for it. My
Yeah.
kitchen is really dark and ugly, and
No, I saw a picture
maybe
of
that
you in
would
your
catch on.
kitchen.
That wasn't my kitchen.
Oh, I was gonna tell you I love your kitchen.
I love that kitchen too.
But it's not yours.
No.
I'm in the same boat. My kitchen is dark as well.
Yeah.
And dark kitchens, I don't know. I'm just like bugging my husband every day, like, "Oh, let's paint it white," but we haven't done that yet.
I've thought about setting up a fake background with like a table where I can cook at, but that feels like a whole thing. So
I
I've already got a
know.
lot going on. I need to
But you
stay in my
tell
lane.
myself, how many people have dark kitchens? So maybe, I mean, not everybody has an Instagram kitchen. Why not just be who you are and just go with it?
Yeah, I feel like it would probably connect with people, but we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. Yes, I get that. Okay, so we talked about photography. I am and video. I really am curious about, like you've been doing this since 2011, is that what you said?
Yep.
So, I mean, I think it's easy to imagine other people just having this straight line of success, when in reality, there's all these kind of roadblocks and ups and downs along the way. Have you ever experienced anything like that? And if so, I mean, can you describe that how it's been for you?
Yeah, it's been tough. I've had a lot of ups and downs in my blogging career. I had two more kids after I started my blog, and everybody talks about it, but playing the comparison game is hard when I see people who don't have kids and maybe they started after me and they just skyrocket because they have all this time to pour into their blog. And it's hard not to kind of wish that I could do that, but it's also important to focus on what's important to me in my life right now and know that it's okay if I'm not at a million page views today, and maybe I never will be, but I'm still at a better spot than I thought I would be, 6 years ago. And I actually took 9 months off of blogging after having my last baby. And I always planned to come back. It's hard to stay away.
Yes.
but but I didn't see any change in my traffic over those 9 months. It didn't go down, it didn't go up, it just stayed, which I thought was
Wow.
amazing. And it was so good to take that time. I came back so excited and ready to work. And, my dad passed away a few
Mm.
years ago. And so it was nice to have the flexibility of, you don't have to post today. And we put all this pressure on ourselves to, stick to a schedule. Google wants us to be on a schedule and like post regularly, but it's okay. You have to give yourself a little grace in those hard times to just let whatever happens happen. And there's always more time to work later. It'll be
Yes.
fine.
It's so interesting because I'm taking a course called, oh, I don't know what it's called actually, but the podcast that corresponds with the course is called The Happiness Lab. And her name is Laurie Santos. And it's on a program called Coursera. I'll leave a link in the show notes page for anybody who wants to check it out. It's free. And I've just been so almost shocked by, I mean, she's a researcher. I believe she's got a PhD, and she's teaching Yale students about happiness, but she was surprised at how well the course is done. But I'm just so surprised to learn the things that we think are going to make us happy don't. And so she's obviously talking to these Yale students. So it's about grades and it's about money and all these things. But I'm kind of translating all this into page views and and followers and all that stuff that you think that, let's say, getting 1 million followers would on Instagram would make you happy. And in reality, that is just not the truth. It's like our mind kind of, or the perfect body is another example. Or there's all these things that we think if we had those things, we would be happy. But there's just so much science. And she's talking about kind of problems with our brains that tricks us into believing that that would be true, but it's not.
Yeah, I think it's good to have goals and to stretch
Yes.
yourself, but there's always going to be a bigger number beyond that goal.
Yes. What I love about this is that I think kind of freeing yourself from that, at least this is how I feel about from me and my perspective, freeing myself from that has made me feel like, oh, now I can pursue those goals with current happiness. Like,
Yeah.
I don't have to like do all the things to make that happen. I can do the things that make me happy while I'm doing it. And that feels I'm actually enjoying my work a lot more.
Yeah, I've been trying to tell myself on days where I have a lot of like physical work to do, especially with videos, it can be really exhausting, but just coming at it with gratitude and being thankful for
Yes.
I get to be home, I get to do what I love. This is what I'm doing today, and I can just take it slow and not feel rushed, and it'll be good.
And part of that is like you get to pursue the beauty of what you want in it rather than just get it done. Like, in other words, if you want this video to look a certain way, and maybe you have to do the recipe a couple of times or do that pour several times and clean up the mess and reshoot it. And it's worth it because that's part of your creative process.
Yeah. A few years ago, so my husband also was working from home and I was just blogging as a hobby still. He was bringing in most of our income and his business kind of took a turn for the worse. And all of a sudden, my income became more important and I felt like I needed to really step it up and hustle and make things work and make money. And it's hard to keep the joy going in that time. And it's also hard to stop doing that when it doesn't need to happen anymore,
Yes.
Now that things are a little more stable, I have to tell myself you don't need to keep working until 9 p.m. You can take a break. The
Yeah.
work will be here tomorrow. It'll be okay.
Well, it's a little bit like riding a bike, right? Like there are times you got to really pump to get up the hill, and then now you get to coast a little bit. So it's a little bit like that. It sounds like that's nice.
Yeah, that's a great analogy for it.
And it's like you say, finding the joy. How wonderful it is that you have the flexibility to do that. You know what I mean? Like whereas if you're working for this job and they're like expecting weekends and evenings all the time, you don't get to go. I don't think I'm going to do that right now.
But we also have to make sure we're not telling ourselves to do
No.
that all the time. I'm definitely trying to take weekends off completely now. I was working a lot, but it's good to
Yes.
take a break. You have to have something other than work, especially when so many of us started this as a hobby. I think it's important to have other hobbies that you're not trying to make money off of or really achieve at.
I agree. And I feel the same way. Like, I think when you're working from home and you've been doing it for a while, it's easy to kind of like let your projects stretch a little bit, like, so I can find myself doing other things. I don't know how to explain this, except that I find myself working every day, a little bit every day, rather than like focusing hard during the workday and getting these things done and letting myself have the weekend off. And I feel happier when I get the weekends off where I'm not blogging. I am cleaning or like organizing or doing things around my house that I really, or maybe it's even cooking, but it's cooking for fun.
Yeah, I think it's different now a little bit because those of us that have kids at home and we have all these stay-at-home orders, and so we're trying to handle schoolwork and childcare and still get things done. Sometimes that work needs to bleed into the other areas of the week.
How's that been for you? I'm especially interested in you because like I have a child, but she's no longer at home. She's moved out. So I'm kind of curious from the perspective of somebody who has children. I'm sure that's got to be complicated.
Well, we've been on a real roller coaster this year because up until January, my husband and I both worked from home and we were homeschooling all four of our kids.
Wow.
And then in January, we decided to send two of them to public school. And then in March, they get sent home for the rest of the year. So it's just been a huge upheaval in our routine. But it's interesting to see like everybody else enter this world that we were in for 8 years and realize it is hard. We did make a good decision in sending them to school finally. And it's okay if we're not sitting down and teaching them for 6 hours a day. Kids are amazing and resilient and great at learning on their own if you just give them a chance. And I think play is so important. Yeah, I hope people aren't trying too hard to teach their kids a public school education at home while they're trying to work because it's nearly impossible.
Yeah, I would think so. And one thing I have noticed, like in our neighborhood, there are so many kids out playing that we have not seen in a long time. I think it's because they're not in soccer and all these running around at different places. All these different places are actually getting to play, and it's nice.
Yeah. And I think it's important, especially now, to try find time away from each other, just alone time, because most people aren't used to being together that much, especially with their kids. And it's okay that it feels hard because
Yeah,
it's hard.
right. I also think it's okay for kids to get to learn how to entertain themselves.
Yeah.
That should be expected. I mean, I can remember, you know, running around for hours and not being accounted for. I was probably on an extreme. I mean, I did not have a lot of supervision, which is probably not good. But I mean, I think kids nowadays can use a little freedom, and that's good for them.
Yeah. I think they need to be able to take risks and find their boundaries and just play.
Yes, that's exactly right. So it sounds like, as a result, are you able to still, work in a way that you're reaching your goals, or have you had to adjust that a little bit?
Yeah, I'm still able to work pretty well. They're a little older. The youngest is 4.5, so they're kind of independent, and the teachers have been amazing sending work for them to do. It's been going okay.
I mean, homeschooling is another thing that I think has evolved over the years. I think it seems to me like early on, homeschooling was just for like super religious people, but now it seems like homeschooling has expanded to include all kinds of curriculum. Obviously, public schools are even doing it now.
Yeah, all sorts of people are doing it.
Yeah, so I just love that there's so many options for people to consider, curriculum at home. It's a nice option.
And I loved it. I'm disappointed a little bit that it's maybe eventually coming to an end, but
Yeah,
public school's good too.
that's right. That's right. There is something to be said, I guess, for the socialization, the other things that happen at a public school, opportunities and things like that.
Yeah.
But I have found for myself, like my traffic goals are actually like I have a document. I can see it right now. It's just got my goals for 2020, and some of it's about traffic, and some of it's about revenue, and some of it's about other things. But I have found that my traffic area is doing really well, but my my revenue area is not. And I've just decided that during this time, to keep my sanity and to keep my happiness level high, I'm just going to continue to focus on the traffic side because that seems to be working for me. I'm not like ignoring revenue, but I'm not going to be flustered by it. Let me just say that.
Yeah, I feel lucky that the decrease in revenue and the increase in traffic have kind of balanced out. So my income
Yes.
hasn't really been affected.
Nice.
But I've had a few conversations with other bloggers who are seeing record traffic and they feel great about it, but they don't feel like they can say anything about it because it took such a negative thing for it to happen. But I think it's important to still celebrate those wins for yourself and your business.
Absolutely. Yes. I mean, we've got more people at home cooking. I mean, I agree. I think I'm sad of what we're going through, but if we can take away the positives from it, I think that's huge. And I think the fact that more people are home cooking is awesome.
Yeah, we're doing what we always wanted to do. We're helping people, we're getting them in the kitchen and
Yes.
helping them feed their families.
Right. I think another thing that I've done too is I've tried to go through some of my trickier recipes and make sure I include lots of substitutes because, it's not as easy just to run up to the store these days and go grab some silken tofu or whatever. And so I'm trying to provide some options for people. I don't know if you've done anything like that as well.
I haven't. Most of my recipes, I try to give 4 or 5 customization options anyways.
Ah,
So
good
I feel
idea.
like they have some options, but that's a good idea to go back and double check.
Yeah, exactly. So it sounds like you've had your kids are a little bit older at this point, so you're able to get your work done at the same and they're understanding. The great thing is too, you've got a lot of great taste testers, huh?
Yeah, they love when it's recipe day and they get to try new things and it's fun.
Yeah. I was going to ask you that. Do you do work segmenting like that I mean, how do you stay organized with all of this?
So I try to batch my videos, especially I'll have like a shoot day, and I've found I can't do more than 2 or 3 in a day, or the quality starts to suffer. I get too tired. I'm like, forget it. Let's just get it done. So I need to limit how many I do with that. But I definitely like to batch that because I don't have a dedicated space for my light setup. And I'll try to shoot photography wise, I'll try to shoot a couple recipes at a time if I can. So then I won't have to do it again for a couple weeks. And if I get the chance to batch other work like editing the photos, I feel like it helps not to have to switch between tasks.
So you have these days where you're shooting either the food in some way or shape or form, whether it's video or photography, but then the rest of the time you're spending kind of like editing and writing posts and things like that.
Yeah, I actually have quite a few freelance clients too that I shoot videos for and some photography, and I do video editing for people who don't need help with shooting also. So I spend a lot of time at the computer dealing with that sort of thing.
I see. So people who have they maybe have shot their own video, they send it to you and you edit it for them.
Hmm.
Nice. I'm trying to think. I think it's Brandy Crawford here in Kansas City, and she does that. She shoots her own video, but then she sends it to somebody else who edits it.
Yeah, I think it's a great option. I try to outsource as many things for my blog as I can. I'm a big believer in that because, I mean, I went to college to be a video editor essentially, and other people go to college to be a graphic designer or a writer, and we can't expect ourselves to be able to do all the things so well. It's okay to unload it a little bit.
Yeah, it's in fact, it's like you were saying before, it kind of frees up your brain space to do the things that you do well, to do those better.
Yeah.
Could you imagine if you didn't do that? Would you just be like, oh, pulling your hair out or something?
Yeah.
Yes. I'm a big fan of segmenting your work like that. So the kind of batching, I think, is the term that people use. And that seems to work really well for you.
Yeah, I think so. I can't think off the top of my head like exactly which days I do which things. It always kind of falls different, but I haven't been doing more than like 2 video or photography shoots a month. So I think it's been working out pretty well.
That's great. Can you talk about I mean, you don't have to go into any great detail, but I mean, I noticed on your About page, you've got several different areas where you're working with people like sponsored posts. Would you call these kind of buckets, the type of monetization that you have for your blog? Can you describe that?
Yeah, so I do ads with Mediavine, and I would say about equal with that is freelance work. And sponsored posts have completely fallen off the map for me this year. I don't know what was happening in January and February, but certainly it's understandable now. But I was planning to do more of that this year, but I think it's okay that I'm not. I feel like sponsored posts are a lot of work and,
Yeah.
just kind of disrupt the workflow. And then I have a very small amount of affiliate income.
Yes. And I noticed that you mentioned there that reviewing products. I'm always curious about how people handle that. What do you do? I mean, I'm sure you're the same way that you get a bunch of brands that reach out and say, "Would you like to try our new product or whatever?" I'm curious how you respond to those.
If it's something that seems like a good fit, I'll say, yes, feel free to send it, but I can't guarantee a spot in my content calendar unless I'm receiving compensation. And I actually had a brand send me something a couple months ago and I tried it and I didn't like it. And they were still emailing me saying, when are we going to see it on your social media? And I had to say, I'm sorry, I'd rather say nothing than something negative. So unfortunately, you won't be seeing it.
That's right. I think a social media post is always a good way. Like, well, not. I agree with you. If you don't like it, what is the point of putting that out there? Because it's just your personal taste or whatever. But if there's a product I like and they're not willing to pay, but it's a product I'm really interested in, I might go ahead and accept it. And in exchange, I might like link to, or do a Instagram story about it or something like that. Is that how you kind of handle that?
Yeah, Instagram stories are the only place where I would talk about a product that I wasn't receiving compensation for.
Yeah. I always feel conflicted because there are these products that I think look interesting and I would really like to try them. But I'm always curious how people handle those kinds of things because, you see so many bloggers who are like, don't ever accept anything for free. And it's like, well, sometimes you want to get started with, maybe it helps to, if there's a sponsored post down the path, it has to start somewhere.
Yeah.
So yeah, okay, good. I'm glad to hear you say that. I'm with you on sponsored posts, although I just personally have just decided I just don't really like them. So I'm really happy if they don't come my way. I don't want to do them anymore.
Yeah, it's been a little refreshing this year not doing any, but it is nice to get paid for something when you would be posting anyways.
That's true. That is a very good point. And who knows? Maybe they're going to come back. When things kind of get back to normal. There's a good possibility that there'll be more sponsored posts as a result, and maybe they'll come back in a different way, and it'll be better.
Yeah.
So I know that you started a YouTube channel. I would love to chat with you about that. Your YouTube channel is really about how to edit videos. Is that right?
Yeah, I felt like that was a really underserved pain point for people. Everybody has been saying for a couple years, video is the future. You have to be doing video. And a few people have come out, teaching how to shoot videos and kind of the basics of how to edit them and get it done. But I felt like I had a lot of tips just sitting around in my brain of how people could do it so much easier and faster. And I hear so many people talk about how frustrated they are trying to learn how to edit videos and just get it done, and it's eating up all their time, that I wanted to get it out there, and I've been wanting to do it for a long time, so I'm excited that it's finally here.
What's the name of your channel?
It's Wildflower Media, flower like the food, not a beautiful flower.
I love that.
But I don't have the ending of the YouTube channel isn't my name yet. It's just a bunch of numbers and characters. But if you go to wildflowermedia.com, you can kind of find it there, or it's on Facebook and Instagram.
So people can go there to really have a better understanding of creating food videos and editing them.
Yep, I'll probably expand into shooting once I get all my editing tips out of my brain. But
Yes.
for now, it's things that I think people just don't even realize are right there at their fingertips when they're editing that can make things so much easier.
Do you have a preferred editing platform that you're using?
Yep, all my tutorials are in Adobe Premiere Pro. I find that it's pretty easy to use, and most people are already using Photoshop or Lightroom for their photos, anyways. So you can just get the bundle and it's right there.
I love that. And so I heard you say earlier that you're really just doing video on select posts these days, not on every post. And you think that's probably a good way for people to go about that?
Yeah, I think either doing it for your top traffic posts, or if you can figure out which platforms want what type of video, what type of recipe to see in a video, I think that's really useful.
So, yes, going to Google Analytics and figuring out which are your top posts. Maybe start with your top 10 and then expand to the top 20, but those posts for sure should have a video.
Yeah, especially if you're doing ads, video can add a huge boost in revenue.
And that's a great point, Lindsay, because you can actually go, like, we're both on Mediavine, so you can go to the Mediavine dashboard and you can see, well, the new dashboard that they're coming out with actually tells you the viewability for each post. And I think I would wonder if you could then just use your own site as an experiment and you could see the ones that have video and ones that don't if there's a greater viewability score.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I've found it's really helped my views on Pinterest. So I had probably 1 million monthly views, however they
Yes.
decide what that is. And then I started regularly pinning my video pins and I increased that to 4 million, which
Wow, that's
felt like a
great.
huge jump. Yeah. And all my top pins are my video pins. I can't even hardly find a regular pin when I go through my analytics.
Ah, that's awesome. And can we talk just for a second about how you do your video pins? Because, I mean, the one that I've heard the most about is using something like PowerPoint, or, I mean, if you're on a Mac, it's Keynote, where you have the video on top and a still image on the bottom and some text in between. Is that kind of what you do?
Yeah, so I actually have a tutorial coming out next week for how to
Nice.
create video pins
I love
in
it.
Premiere. But I do a square video on top and a square photo on the bottom. I don't do any text. And it's kind of strange because if you look on Pinterest, if you search for a recipe and they'll suggest some videos up at the top, it's a square video and they just take the middle of the video. So all my pins are half a video and half a photo. And I don't know if that just intrigues people that then they want to click on it and see the whole thing or what, but it seems to be doing really well. Now that I have, all my videos pinned, I plan to go back and experiment with some other formats to see if they do better. I have experimented with just a single square video or the video in the middle, and I've definitely found that just a single square video doesn't do as well, but the video in the middle might be okay.
Wow, I cannot wait for your video to come out now. I'm really excited to see that.
Well, it's so easy. It feels like hardly even anything, but I think,
Yeah, but something that may seem easy to you might be because it's in your zone of genius, and for the rest of us, it's like, "What?" So,
yeah,
it's gonna be very helpful.
I hope so.
Yeah, so maybe by the time this is aired, your video will be out, so we can link to it in the show notes page.
Yeah.
Yes, I love that. That's great. I mean, I'm just curious about, with everything that you're doing, how do you stay organized? I mean, I'm like the spreadsheet person. I love spreadsheets. So do you have like a system that you use?
I wish I was a little more organized. I have a million poorly organized spreadsheets for a lot of different things. I'm a planner person, so I just make a huge to do list for every day.
I have a planner as well. I have a physical planner in addition to my spreadsheets because I need to be physical. I need to like write these things down. But let's say you have a list of 20 things to do today and you only got 17 of them done. Do you then write those 3 things on tomorrow?
Usually, yeah, if it'll work on tomorrow, I'll write it in tomorrow. But sometimes I write things in that I already did just so I can check it off and feel good about it.
I do that too.
But I also try to pick like a top 3 for every day. Like these are the 3 things that need to happen. I need to get it done. And if the rest of it doesn't, it's okay. It can wait. Even if it doesn't feel great, it'll be okay.
You think that gives you the accountability? Like, because as you were saying, when you're working for yourself from home, it's easy to be too flexible with yourself. So, is it like the act of writing it down in this planner that helps you really stay on top of it?
I'm very forgetful. So I find writing things down physically really helps me kind of get it out of my brain. And then I don't have to like keep telling myself, you have to do this, you have to do that. And I can just let it go and come back to my planner and say, oh, yeah, I have to do that thing today.
Oh my God, I am the same way, Lindsay. If I don't have things written down, I can sit down at my computer and be like, la di da, I think I've got everything done today. It's like, are you crazy? No, I've got 1,000 things to do, but I don't have them in front of me on a list. So I don't know. That's just, I feel the same way, is all I'm saying.
Yeah, there's always more to do. I'm trying to convince myself to take a couple weeks off posting recipes on my blog so I can get to some of the more boring technical kind of back end SEO things that have been nagging at me for a while.
Well, I think you have evidence from that, however long it was that you were away from blogging, that your traffic was fine. And we are kind of going into that period of time where traffic might have a tendency to go down anyway. So I think giving yourself a couple weeks would be fine.
Yeah, I don't know why it's so hard though. Maybe I'm just too routine driven that it's like I need to do this on this day.
Yeah, otherwise you feel kind of guilty, huh?
Yeah, just uncomfortable.
This performance guru that I was telling you about in this podcast, where he was talking about, he was actually talking to a musician who was getting ready to do a really huge audition. And he was just, this performance guru was talking about the importance of giving yourself, a break. And then, like, his point was like a prize champion boxer, 2 weeks before the big match or whatever they call them, whatever, I guess they call them a boxing match. So it's a match, is right. They don't, they don't box. They stay away from boxing. They do other things, but they don't do that. So his point was like, give yourself some grace every now and then. You need to have a break from the everyday work that you're doing.
Yeah, I think it's especially hard working for yourself to make
Yes.
yourself take a vacation day or week.
Yep. Yes. I wonder how it would feel if we scheduled that into our schedule. Like, I actually thought about like June is a good month because June is not as busy of a time frame, that I might try to give myself some more days off in that month and like work really hard in May to let June be this really fun, flexible month. I don't know. It's a thought.
You should do it.
Okay. I think you should do your 2 weeks off too then.
Everyone should do it. If we all took 2 weeks off at the same time.
It'd be a food blogger vacation.
Yeah.
I
We'd find
like
a way
it.
to post about it.
Oh my God, we totally would, wouldn't we? Here's what I'm doing on my food blogger vacay. It would totally be counterproductive. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about editorial planning. Since we're on this topic of organization, do
Mhm.
you like plan out content or, like a goal of content for months at a time, or how do you do that?
Yeah, I use just Google Calendar and I kind of pencil in my plans and then I move them around as things change. But I feel like I have so many ideas I need to get out there and keep track of that I'll just put them down. And I think I have like 3 months ahead figured out. And it changes, it doesn't get set in stone, but it
Yes.
helps to know what I need to be testing, what I need to be shooting.
Yes, I feel the same way. And I feel like I recorded a year or two ago an episode on my recipe week and how I work around this spreadsheet. And I think maybe it sounded a little too rigid, like I've got this process all worked out. And in reality, I am like you. I do have this spreadsheet where I keep track of the recipes that I'm working on. And I have these like 4 or 5 elements that I try to do for every recipe. And it tracks the percent done that I am. So that for me feels really good. I can go in there now and I know that I'm 80% done. It's like, oh, I'm so close to being done. But I also move things around too. I just to be completely honest, like I'm just finding some recipes that just don't really do it for me. I'm just not churning my crank. So I just like have to eventually just move it off the list and move something else in. Having
Yeah,
flexibility is
I
good.
I need to get that percentage tracker figured out. That sounds motivating and fun.
It is so fun. It just, I don't know why, just having that number come up at me that says you're 80% done or whatever. It's like, yes, just keep, I feel like Dora, is it Dory? Let's just keep swimming. What do
Oh
we
yeah.
do? We swim. Yeah. Just keep doing it. Yeah. Okay. So I love this that you have a plan, but you're flexible. You also love routines. I mean, it sounds to me like I can kind of visualize what working with Lindsay would feel like. Oh, that's good. Okay, so I love to ask this question too. So tell me, if you were talking to somebody today that was just getting ready to start their food blog and they were really excited about it or whatever, or maybe they were cautiously optimistic or whatever, what would be the advice that you would give to that person?
I would probably say just start. It's not going to be perfect. You're not going to get a certain number of posts up that are going to hit just right. You just have to dive into it and you'll learn as you go. You'll always get better. Join some Facebook groups. I feel like any question you have, the information is right there for you.
Yeah, that's great advice. And those Facebook groups have been so invaluable. I'll leave a link to a couple of them in the show notes pages for people who are interested, but they're very helpful.
Yeah,
But I would always encourage everybody to not ask a question without first searching that Facebook group to see if that question's already been asked.
that's true because it probably has, because you're not alone. Everybody
Yes.
has questions and wants to know the
Yes.
answer. And I actually started a Facebook group to go along with my YouTube channel, and that's food video, photography, and editing on Facebook.
Send me the link to that and I'll put that in the show notes page as well.
Sure.
I love that. Okay, so I have these fun questions I like to ask at the end of the interview. Are you game?
Yeah.
Okay, let's do it. Okay, well, we're food bloggers, so I just have to ask, what's your favorite food?
Oh man, whatever I say, I know I'm going to think about later and be like, oh no, I like this other food better. But I eat avocados all the time. I love avocados. And when I was pregnant with one of my kids, I couldn't eat them. They made me sick to my stomach for some
Oh, how
reason.
sad.
And I told my husband, if I can't ever eat avocados again, I'm going to have to get like an avocado tattoo or something because I need them with me all the time.
Oh my
But
God,
I
that would
can
be such
now,
a
so it's
cute
okay.
tattoo.
Maybe I still will someday. I don't know.
Did you see that pregnancy? It's like a costume for Halloween where they make their belly look like an avocado pit
Yeah.
and they wear the green around it. Oh, so cute.
Yeah.
Did you ever do that?
No.
Oh.
I'm not much of a Halloween costume person.
Oh, I'm not either really. Yeah. I think we do the Chipotle boo-tacular and I put on my graduation outfit, my gown.
That's a good idea.
Yeah. So, I think whether you can eat avocados again or not, the avocado tattoo sounds awesome.
It would be hard to find just the right one. I mean, do you go cute with it? Do you go realistic? I don't know.
Yes, but it would be fun to do some research on an avocado tattoo and see which one really jumps out at you. I think of a former guest on the podcast, Emma. She's with A Beautiful Mess,
Mm-hmm.
and she has a big pineapple tattoo on her forearm, and it's just beautiful. It's gorgeous. It's so colorful, and I love it.
That does sound great. I've been hesitant to think about tattoos on my arms just with doing freelance work. I don't know how that would work out. I guess I could wear sleeves.
I see all kinds of tattoos in people's video work, or I mean, I have a tattoo on my arm. My daughter and I got matching tattoos, and so I don't know. I find it looks even more interesting, but that's just me. I also
Yeah.
wear a ring on my thumb, and I think that kind of is interesting too. I don't know. I think people find it interesting.
Yeah, just if you're doing it for someone else and maybe it's
Ah,
not supposed to be me
yes,
in the video.
I got you. If you're doing it for somebody else, that's a different story. I guess you could just wear a long sleeve shirt that day.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, well, anyway, so I'm back to avocados because I'm kind of curious how you're getting those these days. Are you shopping still yourself or do you use like we just started using Instacart and it was kind of cool.
I am still shopping myself. I usually go once a week grocery shopping, but with all that's going on, I'm trying to go once every 2 weeks, which has definitely been a huge adjustment for us.
Yeah.
But we haven't had trouble getting avocados. I can still get a whole lot of them. And I find they last for 2 weeks. I just ate one today that I bought 2 weeks ago. So
Oh, that's
it's been
great.
good.
My frustrating thing is bananas because I absolutely
Uh,
love bananas, but I like them fresh and it seems like I'll buy like 3 bunches and they all ripen the same day.
yeah.
But yeah, I'm more like you. We're trying to just go less frequently to the grocery store. I realize how much money we spend on food and time.
Yeah. A 2 week grocery trip for 6 people, the
Oh,
cost is horrifying. I can't even handle it. But I did try Instacart for the first time just the other day, just for a small order. I needed a couple more things. And I was like, we'll try it. And it was good.
yeah. I think it works, and I have just found the grocery stores to be the places where people are the least accommodating of a 6 foot parameter.
Yeah.
So that's why we go to Costco, and I find that's better because maybe because the aisles are so wide. And I did hear
Oh, yeah.
somebody say that our local grocery store they just recently made the aisles one way.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Yeah, so that's got to be an improvement. But I just did not. I found myself feeling kind of stressed out. I think I'm going to get agoraphobia or something after this. I'm sure of it.
It's going to be hard to go
It
back.
is. I'd be like, get out of my space. Hopefully we'll all be okay after this, but I don't know.
Yeah.
There will be some things that will be really different. Yeah. Okay. So what's the favorite app on your phone?
Oh, man. I recently found out that not everyone has this app, which I think is weird because I love it, but it's the Google app.
Oh, I
I
don't have
just
it.
I just use it. I open it up and you can search. It's just Google search. And if you're not searching, it has news. I get tons of news there and I love it. I had a problem with the ads not showing up right on my website. And so I contacted Mediavine and they were like, well, what browser are you in? And I told them the Google app, and they were like, what is that? You shouldn't be on a website in that. And I was like, oh, but I love it.
Oh,
So that they weren't that interested in fixing it because turns out nobody uses it, but I like it.
well, they probably use it, but not for that purpose, like for going to a
Yeah.
site.
It's exclusively search. I mean, you open it up and it looks like the Google homepage. You just search.
Wow.
I never use like the internet browser on my phone. I always use the Google app.
Oh, I don't have the Google app right now, but I think I'm gonna check it out. And that's where you also can use voice, right? There's a lot of voice activation. I think my husband has it.
Yeah, maybe. I haven't looked into that.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure on the app version of it, it has a voice activation where you can ask questions that way, kind of like Siri.
Cool.
Yeah. Well, that's cool. I like that. It's different too. So that was a
Yeah.
fun one. Okay, I don't know. I say this of everybody, but you really sound like you're too busy. I can't even imagine that you have time. But if you have time for reading or TV at all, and if you do, what's your favorite?
I do both. Some friends and I actually started a book club a couple years ago. We only read like one book a year, but right now we're reading a book called There I Am by Lindsay. And it's her account of she was in a terrible accident when she was a teenager. And I guess that's as far as I am in the book so far. I don't know what's going to happen after that, but that's the extent of my reading right now. I definitely make time for TV every day. That's the only way I've found that I can really shut my brain off. Like I'm such an overthinker and achiever and doer that if I'm not sitting in front of the TV watching something, I'm going to be trying to do something.
That makes sense. Do you have a favorite show?
I probably do. I don't know. We watch a lot of stuff. I just finished Little Fires Everywhere on Hulu, which was kind of fun.
I don't think I know that one.
It has Reese Witherspoon and
I love her.
I can't remember the other people's names, but it has Joshua Jackson. He was like my childhood crush in his Dawson's Creek days, so that's fun.
We just finished For All Mankind. It's Apple TV is offering some free shows right now, and that one was in there. It's about NASA, and oh my God, I freaking love that show. It's one of my favorite shows. It's so good.
Yeah,
Yes.
I'll have to check that out. It sounds much smarter than my TV viewing.
Oh no, I don't know about that. My daughter went to space camp, the one in Huntsville, Alabama, for several years. She was like determined to be an astronaut. She wanted to go to Mars, all that stuff. But I mean, of course, some of that obviously has changed. She's a musician now, so. But
Yeah.
but the whole concept of this show is something that I have been. Let me just say this. I've been complaining about for years, which is how come you can watch these shows that's based on historical fiction? It's a historical fiction kind of show. So it's based on historical facts, but they change some things, but they won't change things like how women are shown in the culture, or they won't show how minorities are shown in the culture. They continue those kinds of things, but they don't continue other things. So I think, why don't they change those? And they did that in this show. So that's why it's
Oh,
so good. Yes.
that's interesting.
Yes. And so if you have young daughters, I would think they have to watch this show. It's that good.
Oh, cool.
Yes. Anyway, so that's good. Okay, so I love that you get some time in and you use TV as a tool to kind of help you maybe like turn off the day and get ready for the next one kind of thing.
Yeah.
I love that. Okay, Lindsay, tell me, how can people find you online?
My blog is theliveinkitchen.com, and you can find me on Facebook and Instagram as The Live in Kitchen. Pinterest is Live in Kitchen, no the. And if you're interested in my video editing tips or with working with me to create videos or edit videos, you can find me at wildflowermedia.com. That's flower like the food. And I'm Wildflower Media on Facebook, Pinterest, and Instagram. And we also have a Facebook group called Food Video Photography and Editing.
I love it. Lindsay, I had such a great time talking with you today. Thanks for joining me.
Thanks for having me, Marley. This was fun.
Thanks to Lindsay Moe for being my guest on today's episode of the Chopped Podcast. Wondering what's going on in food blogging lately? Want to stay up to date with the latest Chopped Podcast episodes? Simply go to chopped.academy and scroll down to the bottom and subscribe to the newsletter today. Every podcaster talks about this because it's so true. If you're enjoying the Chopped Podcast, there are 3 small things that you can do that make a huge impact on how much this show gets seen by others. 1, you can subscribe to the Chopped Podcast on iTunes. 2, you can leave a review on iTunes. All you have to do is scroll down to the bottom of this feed to leave that review. And 3, you can share a screenshot of this episode on Instagram using #ChoppedPodcast or #NamelyMarley. It's that easy. Your support of the Chopped Podcast means so much and helps the show get seen by more listeners every week. You inspire me, and I hope today's show is helpful and inspirational to you as well. Thanks for listening, and have a great week.